Hi there. Are you wondering how to diversify your Vipkid reward systems? Yeah, if so, I've totally been there. My name is Teacher Keeley, or just Keeley, and I'm in my home office / ESL classroom in St. Louis, Missouri. If you're new here, I'm a Vipkid teacher, and I help aspiring teachers get hired and then get students. If you'd like to apply to be a Vipkid teacher, go ahead and click the link below and make sure that my referral code is entered. And that way, I'll be able to reach out to you, answer your questions, and help you through the hiring process. I'll be able to help you get hired and get students. Go ahead and subscribe to my channel so that you can get the latest videos on the Vipkid application process, demo lessons, classroom help, and the like. And make sure you click the bell so that you get notified as soon as I release a new video. In this video, I'll do basically a show and tell of various reward systems that I've successfully used with lower, intermediate, and advanced students. So whether you're trying to figure out what reward system you'll use in your mock class, or if you've been teaching it for a while and you just want to change it up a little bit, stay tuned. First, why should we even reward students at all? I mean, they already get stars, right? It's kind of what I thought when I first started teaching. I was like, really? I need another reward system? Because the stars seem pretty cool. But what I've found is that a secondary reward system can serve several purposes. First, it does provide additional positive reinforcement for students so they can understand that they're doing something well, you like the way they've done something, and that just increases the likelihood that they'll do it again. Secondly, it can be another learning opportunity if you incorporate the lesson or if you're able to teach students something new. And third, rewards can just be fun for you and your student. And once you have something fun in your classroom, kids will want to return there again and again to enjoy it with you. Also, when your classroom is fun, that's something, and your reward systems are memorable, that's something that can make you stand out, and that will actually get you more bookings over and over again. Let's start with the lower levels, levels 1 and 2. Are you tired of giving little Elsa, like, teeth? Or have you had enough of monkey getting a banana? I've been there too. So there's a lot of different things that you can do with the lower levels. And in levels 1 and 2, often there are rewards that are included in the lesson. But what I've found is that if you teach the same students a lot, the rewards are like the same throughout several different lessons. And it can get to be a little boring. So there's different things you can do. So I've found that one of the easiest, simplest, stress-free rewards you can give involves a whiteboard and markers. And literally you can just draw. I don't even like to draw. I'm not good at it at all. But if you draw things where you don't have to be good and they just sort of get it, then no problem. So some things that you could draw, I mean, you could keep it really simple and draw a face. So one reward could be the head. And then you could say, oh, great job, Elsa. Now you get 2 eyes. And what you're doing, and see, it's bad, you're teaching what the parts of the face are. And lower level students, that's something they probably haven't learned yet, unless they've done some learning at home. And it helps them. Parents love for their kids to learn extra things. And you give little Elsa a nose and a mouth. You can give some hair. Lots of kids don't know hair yet. But see, this is not cute, but it gets the job done. So drawing is one thing you can do. And if you need some ideas of things to draw, a face is one thing you could draw. You also could draw like a scene. If you have colors, you can draw a scene and teach kids what other things are. Like you might say, oh, Elsa, great job. You get a sun. And then show Elsa the sun. Yep, it's horrible. But show her the sun. She'll get it. It's a picture. She can get excited. Ooh, Elsa, fantastic. You get a tree. And you can draw a tree. She'll understand what it is. Again, I don't think this is good. But it really does get the job done. It's simple. You need a dry erase board and markers, and something to erase with is really handy. But that's something you can do. You could also draw balloons. Balloons are simple and they don't take a whole lot of time. Some of the lessons talk about celebration, so drawing balloons makes sense. Kids maybe have not learned the word balloons yet, so you could draw balloons. And every time they get a reward, they get a balloon. They can count the balloons at the end. So that's another way to extend your lesson. If you wanted to talk about colors, you could talk about the colors of the balloons. You also could do that if you draw a rainbow. So if every time you give the secondary reward, you give them part of the rainbow, then you're building a rainbow together. They're learning the vocabulary rainbow. You say, oh, let's add pink. Let's add orange. And they can get the colors. So that's a good one. And then also, okay, so one of my favorites, because if you've been on the channel, you'll know I'm not artsy or crafty. But I know that kids really love ice cream. So I had cardstock and I cut out a triangle because that's how much I like math. I can do shapes. So I cut out a triangle. I paste it here. This is my ice cream cone. And then I'll ask, what color ice cream? Because I didn't want to draw ice cream and cut it out. I'll just ask what color. And this way they get to choose their colors, which kids like. And you have to know your students. So some kids can choose from many colors. And you can say, what color? For some kids, it's better to say, oh, would you like purple or orange ice cream? And let them choose. And then you just draw the ice cream. And then you get really excited. Oh, ice cream. Oh, yummy ice cream. Yummy. And what I like to do is at the end, we'll count the scoops of ice cream. There are usually 5. And then I will say, and 1 cherry. And they get excited. And lots of kids don't know the word cherry. So that's something new for them. So drawing is my one go-to for level 1 and 2. Another thing that you can do with the lower levels is play a simple game like Connect 4. I don't mean actually play it though, but can you tell it's a little old? I've had it for a long time. But it came in handy with Vipkid. So you can take something like this. I happen to have Travel Connect 4, and with lower level students, you can hold this up, and I would not try to teach the game. That would take too long, and many of them won't get it because they're like 4 and 5 and 6, and that's just a little much. But what you can do is take the little checkers and say, would you like black or red? And then they can choose a color, which helps them, and then just stack them. Say, you want to fill this up. And I just stack them in the middle. You get a checker. And you stack them. And then this is something that you can count at the end. So there's another way to extend with counting. And the kids tend to like it. And then when they're older, like in levels, I'd say 3, 4, and again, know your student, but not before that, then you can actually play the game. So then you can play Connect 4 where you try to get 4 in a row and you play with them, and that can be really fun. My last reward for the lower level students will be I Spy. And I have my tablet because the way I see it, you can play this a couple of ways. You could have the physical books. You know, there are many, many I Spy books out there, and I don't know if my daughter has any yet. I haven't raided her room for the books, but you can use the books. Because you can open the page and then tell the student, I spy something yellow, or something like that. And then they need to tell you what the yellow thing is. So you just want to look at the pictures and see if there are things that they know, and obviously choose to spy things that they know. Kids in levels 1 and 2 are basically learning and using the words look and see. So you could say, I see something yellow. But you could also, depending on your student, introduce some new vocabulary and say, I spy. So this is an example. You can find I spy on a tablet and show the student, I spy something yellow. And lots of kids know what a dog is. So they might say, is it a dog? Or you could even ask them, how many balls do you see? and then they can look for balls and count the balls. So those are some ideas for lower level students. Now I have 3 ideas for intermediate level students. These are students in levels 3 and 4. One of my favorite things to do is tell them, when you do a good job, we can spin the wheel to see what you get, because then it's suspenseful. So I use this app called Decision Roulette. You could also do this with a fidget spinner. I don't have one handy, but if you had a fidget spinner, you could label the different, let's see if it has 3 thingies. You can label each one with something, but I'll show you what I mean. So this is my Decision Roulette. I labeled purple, question, orange, dance party, and yellow says star. So I have them spin, and if you have the volume on, it makes noise, so it makes it more exciting. Let's spin the wheel to see what you get. And then hold it up. You get a star. So when it's a star, I stick a star right up here. When it's a question, then I say, I can ask you, or you can ask me. And this is a rapport building opportunity because my students can then think of questions they have for me. Many of them will ask, where do you live? And then I can show them on my map. And then some kids ask really interesting things, which is fun to see. And then sometimes they'll say, you ask me. And when I ask them, then they get to practice, doing more student output, which parents love, Vipkid love. But either way, we're learning about each other. And that's something that, frankly, can also help you get bookings, because then you and your student have some rapport. And then the orange space is dance party. And that's pretty fun because I'll ask my students, when they land on dance party, I'll say, do you like to dance? And a lot of them will say yes. And we will have a ball like dance party, and we'll just dance it up and have some fun. Parents like that their kids are having fun in class. And then, as long as you get all the work done. So that's fun. And some of them don't like to dance, and I'll say, that's okay. I'll dance for you. And I throw a dance party for them. And then some of them have said, but I really like to sing. So I've said, okay, when we land on dance party, then it'll be karaoke and you can sing. So with singing, you just have to be mindful of the time, because some kids might want to take it a little far and sing their whole song, and you don't have time for that. You have 25 to 28 minutes. So you have to rein it in on singing. The app is called Decision Roulette. So if that's helpful, download that. Another one for intermediate level students is tic-tac-toe. And I've found a few ways to play tic-tac-toe with intermediate students. One, and honestly, I would do the wheel and tic-tac-toe, like the intermediate things, I would do also with advanced students. But when I get to advanced things, I don't go backwards. So I've even drawn for intermediate students, and I just said that was for lower levels. And I've drawn for intermediate students in unit assessments, because sometimes they have these rewards that, like inside the unit assessment, when they complete a level, then they, maybe find a cow. And so I'll draw a cow. I mentioned I'm terrible at drawing. So it's something funny, because my cow is pretty comical, and my students know I don't think it's good, and we laugh together. But anyway, back to tic-tac-toe. With tic-tac-toe, you can play traditionally. I understand you're supposed to let the students win. I give them a run for their money, but I will let them win, especially when they're like 8. You want it to last basically through your lesson, or be prepared to play again. So there's that. You can also play tic-tac-toe where the traditional way, but whoever wins gets something. I had a student who said that when she won, she wanted to sing something. And when I won, she wanted me to sing something. So that gave me a lot of motivation to allow her to win. I don't really sing. I do other stuff. I like to dance. But then also, you can make a prize for whoever wins tic-tac-toe. And then another way that I've learned to play is with vocabulary words from the unit. So there was a unit, I was just working with a student in a unit on jobs. So I'll give some examples. But we've been talking about jobs, and needs and wants. And so pretend that all of these are filled out. So I'd have a word in each of these squares, and then tell my student to choose a word, which means they're also choosing the square. So jobs would be a popular choice. And then I'd say, okay, now you need to use jobs in a sentence. So my student might say, I have learned about many jobs. That's a great sentence. And I'd say X or O, and they tell me, and then they get the square. This reminds me of Hollywood Squares. I think that's kind of how it worked. But I mean, not sentences, questions. But anyway, so they'd get the square, and then I would do one for competition. I'd say, okay, well, I want taxi driver. And I could say, my cousin is a taxi driver, or whatever, and then I get the O. My third reward system idea for intermediate students is Hangman. So, again, whiteboard and a marker gets you really far. One way to play Hangman is to draw the gallows and spaces yourself. So I just mentioned we talked about jobs. So then I might decide on a job name. When I do Hangman myself, I don't really tell a category to the students. I just say, when you do a good job, we will play Hangman, and then they'll guess a letter. And if my student guesses L, I'll say, yes, there is an L, and draw it. And then if my student guesses an A and there's no A, I write the A underneath and put the head on the gallows, and we're off to the races. So I would choose a word that's related to the unit. So the answer is plumber. That's a job we talk about in the unit. So Hangman is one thing you can do. You can use a whiteboard for it, or you can use an app. This is the Hangman app that I have. So when I press play, I get categories. And I'll do one of two things. I'll either say, okay, we'll play Hangman, and the category is food. Or I could say, when you do a good job, we will play Hangman. Do you want food or colors or farms? And then they can choose. And let's say it's Halloween time, because there's a Halloween category. I can tap Halloween and then show how many spaces. My student can guess a letter, and let's say we have A. There is no A, so that's when the gallows are drawn. Yes, this is free, so there are ads on here. Let's go with L. And then there's a head, because I'm doing a terrible job. E. There's an E. I don't know what the answer is, but frighten was the word. Here's one. Skeleton. It says great job. And then tells you can go to the next word. So probably it would take the whole class to do one word, but I mean, if your student guesses it early, you can always fill it out and then go to the next word. So the way I see it, you can use the whiteboard. You have more control over your own Hangman, and you can make sure the words apply to the lesson, and you can make sure that the answer is a word that your students know. Or you could be a little riskier and use the app, which is fun because sometimes an app will have ideas that you didn't have, and it's still an opportunity for students to learn something new, especially if, it's words that are not in the unit but they're related. That's a cool way to extend the learning. And then also I mentioned for the intermediate students, you can actually play Connect 4. I'm going to share 4 different reward system ideas for upper level students. And when I mention upper level students, I mean students in levels 5 and 6. You may have heard that Vipkid has a level 7, and that's true, but in level 7, we don't do secondary rewards. Like, it's not a requirement, and frankly, I think it would take too long to incorporate that. Level 7 classes are 50 minutes, but they are full of content. So if you have the desire to try rewards with level 7 students, I would recommend trying the level without the reward and then seeing if you can add it in later. My first one is one that I really, really like, and it is Mad Libs. I think Mad Libs are super fun, and so do my students. Now, this reward can take a really long time, full disclosure. So, one, I would not recommend trying Mad Libs with a new student because you don't know if they actually remember parts of speech, and it could be long and painful. I do recommend, though, doing Mad Libs with kids you know who do know parts of speech and also who can appreciate the humor, or at least the ridiculousness, of the ending story. So what I tell students is, okay, when you do a good job, we will build a story, because not everyone knows what Mad Libs are. And in the upper levels, I tend to give choice. So I might say, would you like to build a story or spin the wheel or something else? Because choice, I think, is just a really important power to be able to exercise. Sometimes I decide, but sometimes I offer it to them. Anyway, when you do Mad Libs, you want to know ahead of time which story you're going to build. So you might look and find a shorter one because they can get lengthy. This is instructions for the babysitter. So when it's time, I'd say, okay, please give me an adjective, because that's what it asks for. And my student might say scary. And then I take out my whiteboard and I write the word scary on it. And I'd probably also indicate that it's an adjective, because at the end, I will read the story with the words, and you don't want to miss the lines and mess up and have to redo it. It's already kind of long. So then I also, to save time, will play along with them. So then I'll say, I need to add a plural noun, because that's the next thing that's asked for. And I might say fish. And then just note that it's a plural noun, so that when I'm trying to read the story, I can keep up on this board. I put it on here so then my student can see our progress, and it shows that we're making progress in the reward, and then, I don't know, it's a nice visual for them to have, like we're doing something. So we do Mad Libs that way, and then at the end we'll say, okay, let's read the story. And what's cool is that you read the story and you hear kids laughing, and I mean, I just think laughter is nice, but because they're advanced students, then they'll generally get the humor, or at least see that this story is strange, out of control, whatever. But they appreciate that it's not normal, not what you would expect. And so it becomes a really fun reward. Sometimes kids will request it, and it's just a nice one to have in your back pocket. So I highly recommend Mad Libs, and I'll link some below so that you can easily grab some if you want. My second reward system idea for upper level students is the game Would You Rather, which you may remember from, I don't know, middle school. And when you play, you can either think of your own, or you could just look up Would You Rather for kids on Google. Just make sure it's PG. And they can either relate to the lesson or not. I might say, would you rather have the power to fly or be super strong? And then my students will think about it and give an answer. And this is a great opportunity for additional student output, because naturally I'll ask them why after they give their answer. So it requires that they think, which would I prefer, and then think about the reasons behind it. So then they're giving an answer and supporting it. And those are all really higher level thinking skills, and really great ones to have in a second language. This is also a game where you can get to know your student better, because you learn their preferences. And sometimes they'll even ask you, well, what would you rather do? And it's a cool conversation, a great way to get dialogue going, and certainly rapport building. And anytime you build rapport with students, I mean, a side effect, a nice side effect, is that they generally will like you and want to come back to your class. So it's another way to increase your bookings as well. The third reward system idea I'll share for upper level students is my version of Beat Shazam. Now, Beat Shazam is an actual television show, so I've just adapted it to the Vipkid classroom. On Beat Shazam, the DJ will play a song, and the contestants then need to guess the name of the song. And so that's basically what I do with my students. I'll have my phone ready, and I'll choose one of my music apps, usually Napster. Don't laugh, it's real, and it's a paid service, so it's legal now. But I choose Napster because it's never let me down. And I'll just choose a song and play it, and my student will, I'll only play a little bit, and then my student will guess the name of the song. For this game to work, I don't recommend this for a new student, because you don't know what music they know. And it really helps if you know the kind of music your student knows, so that you can play something they can actually guess. Now, Sometimes you might play something they don't know, and that's okay too, especially for the musical kids, because they really like to hear new music and they like to then look it up after. It's also beneficial because learning music in another language, like English, is a great way to strengthen your language skills. So it's good for them and it's fun. And then for the musical kids, this is also really motivational because they want to come back to your class and hear the music. It also can give a little bit of suspense to class because then the kids will think, what's she going to play next? And that just helps keep it really interesting. And finally, the last reward system idea for upper level students that I'll share today is jokes. I did not come up with this on my own. Actually, I had a new student and I looked at what the previous teacher had written, and he had written that for a reward, this student received jokes. And so in the class, when I met my student, I asked him, do you like jokes? And he said yes. And I said, well, would you like jokes for your reward? And he said yes. And fortunately, I had prepared and pulled up some jokes on Google because they're just not living right here, especially little one-liners. And it's priceless when you have a student in the advanced category that is understanding humor, when they hear a joke, seeing them get it, or even just seeing the process of them figuring it out. Like you see the wheels turning, and then they're excited to tell you, and that's why it's funny. It's so great. So, with the student that I mentioned before, one of the jokes that I told was something like, what did one plate say to the other? And the punchline, wait for it, is dinner's on me. I know, not hilarious. You're probably not busting a gut, and neither am I. But to see my student try to figure it out, he's like, okay, I know this is supposed to be funny, and I see it happening here, but it was taking him a little while, so I said, in America, when we pay for someone else's dinner, and he goes, you say dinner is on me, and the dinner is on the plate, and that's why it's funny. It was the greatest thing ever. He was laughing, I was laughing, he could appreciate the joke, and then I really enjoyed watching him come to the realization. It was amazing. So I highly recommend it for the kids that are understanding humor, which is really higher level when you're talking about a second language especially. So I mentioned that the purposes of secondary rewards are positive reinforcement, education, and also fun. And I believe that all the rewards that I mentioned today wrap all those three things together. And when you're able to do that, then you're golden. Then you've got a really great reward system that the kids enjoy, that you enjoy, and parents like to know about too. So today I've given you 10 of the best reward systems I can think of, and I incorporated the lower, intermediate, and upper levels. I hope that I was able to inspire the rewards that you'll be using in your classes or even in a mock lesson. I appreciate you being here. If you like this kind of thing, go ahead and subscribe, click that bell so that you get notified when I release a new video, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.